not going to waste a lot of your guys' time. Today is Sunday. And today's project is I got to build a 500 amp switching supply. So we're going to use 5 of the HP RSP 1200 SBs. These have all been modified to 14.5 or 14.6 volts, all of these. We're going to use this base cabinet. I've got it pretty much prepped out for the most part. Yeah, the only thing left really here that I'm going to do is disassemble this thing. I'm using the brackets from my friends over at Grim Reaper. These are 3D printed brackets. We're going to get these taped up. We usually put a little piece of double-sided stick tape to help hold the brackets in place as we put them in. Get the brackets all put in. First I'm going to prep the back of the power supplies with the power wires that are going to go out through these 2 huge openings. We're going to use this Lexan to sit here as our insulator. The way this guy's going to run it, we're not doing a 100% duty cycle on this, so it's probably going to see 350 amps or so. But we're going to make it so that the Lexan doesn't have to support the connectors. So I don't have to worry about the connectors getting too overly hot. We're going to have a single power switch on and an on indicator. We're not going to do a voltmeter or none of that stuff, because it is not needed. But that's what we're doing today. Big shout out to my Patreons, as always. And guys, enjoy this content because it is brought to you ad-free by the Patreon group. These guys down here. If you ever wish to support the channel, please come and join. On that note, away we go. It dawned on me I better turn the camera on, and this whole thing is going to be about 10 minutes long. I was sitting here thinking about the first one of these I ever did. It was a big old iron core transformer, because I didn't know how else to get there, and of course the switchers have not been developed to this level yet. I mean, they had, but this would have been $8,000, $9,000 to build this back in the beginning. Back way 10 years ago, 15, 12, well, no. Yeah, 12 years ago. I remember I ordered, just sitting here thinking as I've been banging through this afternoon and into the evening. It's way late now. I'm tired. Just making me reminisce, you know what I mean? I ordered that transformer for that supply, and that transformer was like $600. And I wanted the build so bad that I ended up charging the guy. His name's Randy. He's still my friend. He's a good dude. And charging him like $650 is all I ended up charging him for the whole build, right? I had to wait 6 months for the transformer to get handmade, and I didn't know any different. I absorbed the cost of the cabinet, all the power wire, the filters, the capacitor circuit, the on-off, all that kind of stuff, right? I just wanted to build a big, pretty power supply. Whew, that was hot. But I got the chance. I remember he got really mad at me because he thought I took his money and I hadn't ordered the supply, and he wasn't listening to me that I'm saying I'm still coming. I'm waiting, right? Just waiting. I mean, I built that on a loss, and I took shit for it, even though I got everything done, and he ended up taking it, and yeah, there's some filter issues that went on with that particular build. I'm going to flip-flop these 2 leads. Didn't know. But I spent a week handcrafting the copper heat sinks that were on the diodes. I was really proud of what I built him because it was neat. I didn't know the difference between intermediate and continuous duty cycle, only to go forward and shrink that entire thing down quite a bit, because I went and had new transformers designed that were intermediate duty cycles, but it was a big old fatty heavy piece of iron, right? It was in that thing. Only to fast forward to today as I'm working on this, and it makes me laugh because I'm like, this is so much easier and there's so many less parts. And really, as you guys know, we took 10 of these and put them together, and we load tested that to 1800 amps, right? 1800 amps. Where that was 350, period, full break, stop, end of sentence, end of conversation, done. There's so many more parts, but I put it in a pretty server rack. It was a pretty power supply. All I got to do is hook up the positive bolt now and get this mounted up. Then we're going to do up the plug, power plug here. Pretty simple. The way this is going to work is this is your on-off, and this is a breaker. But it's a curling breaker, so you can also use this as a master off. So it completely shuts down the power supply. Because in theory, there's still a little tiny, I mean, we're talking microamps worth of shmoo that's being consumed by these power supplies when they're plugged in. So if a guy wanted to, he could flip the switch to the corner and shut the supply completely down. But this is primarily just a breaker in the back, but it's resettable. And this is so simple. Way better job. Do a way better job. It's pick it up with 2 fingers. Versus, I remember when I took it off the workbench, it took 3 of us to take that first power supply off the workbench and sit it on the floor. It took 4 of us to put it in the back of Randy's truck. But man, you could arc weld with that son of a bitch. Now, I don't know if you eliminated the crowbar circuit in here, how well this would arc weld. But, yeah. Well, let's set up this test. So the voltmeter isn't all that accurate on the load cell over here, which I'm going to show you here in a second. We lose a lot of poop in the translation of things here, because there's really not a lot of pressure from those clamps. So this isn't really the most accurate thing we can set up, but it does represent a load. So I think it's really neat, the guys that have all watched my videos on this particular topic of these power supplies. They've all taken their butts right down to Harbor Freight or gotten on the internet and ordered their own. Okay, so it did not catch on fire immediately, which is a good sign. I don't know why that's always shocking to me when something doesn't explode, but so resting at 14.5, and where we're going to measure at is on this power supply and this power supply. So we're reading across all 5 supplies. A little bit more accurate measurement. This is our amp cell, DC voltage on the amp load pile itself, and the absolute load here. These 2 numbers should be relatively consistent since the amperage is consistent in the circuit throughout. The big equation variable that everybody likes to focus on is the voltage, right? And how well this can stay above it. I bet you will stay above a solid, just guessing on working with these, if this is idling at 14.5, I bet we'll stay right at about probably 13.9 to right around 14 volts up to 500. I bet you we're above 14 volts at 400, which is really good if you think about it. But let's see how we make out here, or it could just all blow up. Never know. Never know. All right, there's 200 amps, 200 displayed, 14.3. Yeah, Gone up here to 14 volt, 400 amps. So 400 amp load, just above 14 volts here. Yeah, 13.95, close enough for the girls I dance with. At about, say 400 amps here, 13.96, 13.95. And our max before crowbar is 500, 550, somewhere in there. So we crowbarred it, and all we got to do to reset it on crowbar is flip the power switch off, flip the power switch back on, crowbar reset. So now let's whack this a couple good times. Crowbar again. Power off, power back on. A solid 530 amp maxed out supply. It's amazing to me the difference between 400 amps, 430 amps is a full volt. Very first power supply I ever built, like I was talking about in the earlier previous segments, I didn't even have any of this fancy technology. I just hooked an amp up to it, and if it did enough, it did enough. It's amazing how things have changed. It really is. Okay, well, it works. Yay, imagine that. So this is an interesting result. Let's turn this back on. I put my hands on the modules. This one's warm, this one's warm. I mean, warm. This one's warm. This thing is cold. Okay. Let's go ahead and we'll bring our load on. There's 400 amps. So we're pulling 100 amps out of that one module, right? And we'll come over here, we'll probe this guy here. There's 400 amps. We're not even pulling 1 amp worth of current from here. The rest of these, we're getting 100 amps out of them. I was kind of questioning the performance. There's 400 amp load again. There's 100 amps out of that module. There's 400 amps. I think we got a dead soldier in the mix. This is why we test everything. 100 amps. Okay, so we were putting 100 and what, 35 amps on each module to get it to go to crowbar. The customer probably would have never figured this out. Yeah, that unit is ice cold while the rest of these are fairly warm. So, needless to say, let's take that POS out of there. Let me go grab another one. We'll modify it real quick. We'll stick it in there and we'll see if we can actually get a little bit better result. We actually have 5 working modules instead of 4. Okay, so we're not planning ahead here. So I don't know what happened here. I'll come back to this some other day. I don't care right now. 2 shits less. Let's see. I bet we're about 14.3, 14.2. So there's 200 amps. Pardon me, 200 amps. Seeing 41 amps out of that one supply. 300 amps. 400 amps. 500 amps, and we're at 14.22. There's 600 amps. Still above 13.9. So 600 amps, we're at 14.1. Yeah. So let's see here. Let's go. We'll put, should be seeing 100, yeah, 106 amps out of this supply. I said there's a lot of loss on the connections. Here, 500 amps. Yeah, it's not nearly as twitchy now, too. Oh, 5. $108. So the amp that this guy bought is not going to put this big of a load on it. At 108, 14.2. A lot happier with that. Now everything is warm, 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 warm. Okay. So the idea is you want to overbuild the supply by, like, I don't know, 100 amps or so. Give it a little bit of operational headroom. The box that this guy bought is going to pull about 400, 410, 420, somewhere in there. The way he talks that he drives things. I don't know. Always got a plan for the worst, pray for the best, but that's pretty simple. I was wondering why this thing kept crowbarring it. Hold on. Let's get over here. It was crowbarring at like 530. That's what I was like, yeah, something ain't right. So here, we'll see where crowbar's at now. 630. Reset. On. Yeah, 630 is a trip point, which would be about 35 amps over. Six, yep, right at 630. Okay, well, we're gonna let everything cool off, and yeah, I'm gonna put the LEDs in the front, put the lid on it, and that's pretty much it. Very basic, very, 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 very basic power supply. I'm loving these printed brackets by the old Reaper. It allows the power supplies to stay spaced out. We can put a single fan in here to cool all of this, but we'll have option for expansion in the future if we need it. But we can put a single power supply or a single fan. We allow air to percolate down and use the outside edges of each one of the power supplies as a sink. Do its job, its job. Of course, we haven't gotten this hot enough yet to really get the fans to turn on. So here we'll put a 400 amp load on it. It should be about 75 amps of supply. $490 amps. Sorry to y'all that are wearing headphones. See how quickly they recovered, right? I mean, things are smoking hot. This thing is smoking hot on the inside. If you're able to get these little switchers this hot, imagine how hot your transistors and your amplifier are. All right, we'll be back. This thing will turn on and run, and then within about, oh, the fan's all messed up. Oh, it's got a wire broke off on the fan. Oh, that'll do it every time. So if the power supply can't see the fan turning, it goes into protect mode and it shuts itself off. This thing's all broke up. And this wire this little blue wire here is the signal send. So there's no return signal going back to the supply. That's the first time I've not seen. I've seen this once others. I'll fix this. Gentlemen, I want to say thanks for tuning in and watching and following along. I couldn't leave this alone. I got other stuff I got to go focus on. Big shout out to Bird, Siglent, Coaxial Dynamics, MechMan, Penta, hell, even the children over at Harbor Freight. This thing is done. It's going to go to its new user. I wonder if they'll ever mistake who built this. I don't know. Thank you guys. I appreciate you still tuning in to follow along what's going on this dog and pony show I call my life. And I say thank you for everybody's support. And a big shout out to the guys down here on Patreon. All right. Boom diggity. Clack bang. Yep. Scooch 'em. I'll see you. Bye. This thing's only rated for 80 amps on 110 volt. There's 100. 100 amp. There's 80. 75, 50, 20. Carbon pile's a little twitchy. Let's say fixed. I'm going to bed.